This morning's guest is American by birth, but she's Southern by the grace of God. Meet her, coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at family-owned and operated Ace Hardware between 76th and 79th Avenues in Myrtle Beach on North Kings Highway. We're focused on the United Daughters of the Confederacy, and we're visiting with a past president of the local chapter in Florence, Ann Powell. Good morning,
Good
Ann.
to see you, Greg.
Thank you so much for coming in early on a Tuesday morning.
Well, I'm happy to be in a hardware. Most women like hat shops and shoe shops, and I like hardware, so I'm happy to be here.
I think you mentioned you had some family connections. Did your brother?
My brother-in-law had a wonderful hardware in Hartsville, South Carolina.
Is that right?
And
yes.
so when I attended Coker College, I'd stop by the hardware and look around, and I just loved it, And I want to thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to talk about my organization.
Of course.
There's a lot of organizations now, as you know, but we've been around so long that I sometimes think people forget about us and think maybe we're just a group of women sipping tea and living in the past, and we're not. We're alive and well and have many young members and need more.
You recruit young members and you need more.
Yes.
How do y'all normally go about recruiting members?
Well, we have a website.
Right.
And we have the headquarters is in Richmond, Virginia.
Great.
And you can write, and that's how we got our president of our chapter now.
Yeah.
She contacted Richmond, and they contacted us, our chapter.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. I think I saw that's in 31 states now.
Yes.
Almost.
And maybe more. That was through the 90s. I didn't get an update on that.
Right,
that was through the 90s, mid-90s.
And the website has tremendous information. I went there early this morning and pulled off some of it. I believe.
Well, then you have it. www.hqudc.org.
That's exactly right. And there's a great picture of the President General up there now, who's serving her term from 2006 to 2008. The HQ headquarters, udc.org. And that's a great location. I'm glad to hear you promote that number. They also have an 804 number there in Richmond. If a viewer is not familiar with the internet, doesn't go online often, and wants to learn more about the United Daughters of the Confederacy, what's that 804 number?
804-355-1636.
1636. Now, you're promoting a website. Do you go online a lot, Ann?
No, I'm a conscientious objector sometimes to the 21st century. I don't want a bunch of emails on my desk and all that sort of thing, so I'll let everybody else do that. But anyway, and I'd like to give the address if they want to write.
Sure,
UDC headquarters. It's Memorial Building.
Okay.
And it's 328 North Boulevard.
328 North Boulevard.
Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
23220.
23220. Okay. And that is wonderful. So if someone wanted to write just to get some more information about the UDC, and I'm sure they'd happily send it out. They would. Picking up a phone's very easy. If a viewer right now wanted to call, they could leave a message at the 804-355-1636. Or if they want to take the time to go online, they can go to www.hqudc.org. Very easy. That's wonderful. Ann, what a treat to get you in.
Well, you just don't know how happy I am to have this opportunity, because we have 5 objectives. We have a patriotic, a benevolent, an educational, a historical, and a memorial. And if you don't mind, let me read what that involves.
Okay.
It involves to honor the memory of those who served and those who fell in the service of the Confederate States, to protect, preserve, and mark the places made historic by Confederate valor, to collect and preserve material for a truthful history of the war between the states, to record the part taken by Southern women in patience, endurance of hardship, and patriotic devotion during the struggle and in untiring efforts after the war during the Reconstruction.
Right.
To fulfill the sacred duty of benevolence toward the survivors and toward those dependent upon them. To assist descendants of worthy Confederates in securing proper education. and to cherish the ties of friendship among the members of the organization.
That's fantastic.
May I skip to the education?
Oh, and Ann, you know, folks are more interested in you than hearing about all. I mean, they really want to hear about you and what got you involved.
Well,
this
what
is a
got me
people show.
involved is that my grandfather was 15 years old when he served.
Is that right? Age 15.
Age 15,
Wow.
and he was in Marion County, Marion District, they call it.
Right.
My grandmother was the same age in Columbia and watched Sherman burn all around her. And one of her relatives purchased drugs up north in Philadelphia, and they were instructed, Sherman's men were instructed not to burn their house. I don't know, they burned all around them. And so it's in my blood.
Yes,
it's in my blood.
That it is.
I grew up hearing stories and fairy tales from my mother, but I also heard, and it was her father.
Right.
I also heard the stories of the war and the Reconstruction.
That's
and
fascinating.
So that's,
of course, in there it used that word true history, and I know that's a big issue oftentimes when talking about the UDC. Is there a similar organization? Is there a Sons of the Confederacy?
Yes, there is.
Right.
And I want to say we work closely with the Sons. They help us so much. And also, you have to be 16 years old and a blood descendant of a Confederate veteran who has served in the Army, Navy, or civil service, or somebody who gave material aid to the Confederacy. They are eligible, and you have to have proof of that ancestry. But we have been working, I think it's important, all these years, and it's such an old long, that we have been working all along. In going back to education, we give granting aids, awards to the military academy, the naval academy, the merchant marines, VMI, the Citadel. You know, we are just doing something all the time.
That's fantastic.
And education is so important because after the war, the schools were just in ruin.
Torn up.
Just ruined. Some of them completely disappeared. Some prominent Southerners went north and asked for money to start. You know, and if Robert E. Lee hadn't taken over Washington and Lee, I don't know what would have happened. You know, but he, you know, they admired him enough to help that college, begin.
Real quick about yourself, Ann. You said you grew up in Marion, but now live in
Florence.
In Florence, although you have deep ties to the Horry-Georgetown County line. Is that
yes,
where
I
you
do.
live? Are you in Horry or Georgetown?
I went to Coker College with 22 Conway girls.
Yes,
and I love Conway.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
And I've got to go and see all the improvements, you know, that had been made.
That's right.
All the Riverwalk.
We filmed there week before last at the Haberdashery and the Blackwater Market, right between Laurel and Fourth Avenue. It was wonderful being over there. And then last Thursday, Russell Fowler, who's a Conway native, was a guest on our show here on Carolina People last Thursday, and did a great job talking about Conway. I think his middle name, as I wrap that interview up, should be Conway. He's got deep roots there.
Well,
so you're a graduate of Coker College.
Yes, and I went really to college. I thought at first I went to study, but after I got there, I was having such a good time. I decided I went there to have a good time.
Yeah.
So in your annual, your senior year, they always have something nice to say about you, about your record and your achievements and everything. And it was sort of blank when they came to me, and so they put "She loves Marion" and under my name.
Yeah.
And so that's what my accomplishment was, to continue to love Marion.
I love it. I love it.
And you can't explain it. You can't explain it. I mean, everybody says it's just like every other little southern town, but it's really not. It's really not.
You still have family in Marion?
No.
Not a soul. Not a
soul. The house is still there.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Yes.
So
you found a little triangle here, born in Marion, live in Florence now, but have deep ties to Murrell's Inlet. And so you literally have that nice little triangle there.
It really is.
Yeah,
and people in Marion love Murrell's Inlet. My Aunt Addie used to go come in a horse and wagon and stop at Socastee at what they call Peachtree Ferry. Spend the night, then cross on the ferry, and the next day get to Murrell's Inlet.
That's
and
amazing.
she stayed at Oliver's Lodge when old Miss Captain Oliver and Miss Oliver ran. We'd call it a bed and breakfast now, but it was called a boarding house
Right,
then,
right.
and stayed there. And once you get your feet and toes in that mud at Merle's Inlet, you're never the same. You either like it or you don't like it. Now, I had a sister that loved it, but the other family didn't stuck with it. But you just do. And it's just, you can't talk about marrying without bringing Merle's Inlet in.
You're right,
because the Bucks from Pennsylvania and the Wilcoxes, Sis Peterkin, you know what I'm talking about?
Course,
the mother
sure.
was a Wilcox and married.
Right.
It comes back to man, and there were so many people at one time that owned property at Merle's Inlet for Marion. They named that little section near Sunnyside Little Marion.
Is that right? I don't think I've ever heard that, but I know that Charlie Spaff.
Oh, God, I'll tell you a lot of things you haven't heard.
Absolutely. We like it. So you've had a home in Merle's Inlet for how long?
Since 1953.
Is that right?
Before
the
Hazel struck
in
54.
Right,
54.
sure. Was your house damaged by Hazel?
Yes, it was. And it was a little store. And
your home had formerly been a little
store. And so it's a long, long building. And I had it moved back after Hazel, and up a little, but not as high as some of them. And so we went through Hazel, and you just can't imagine. There were whole houses floating in the creek. Stoves, refrigerators, everything. It wasn't that way after Hugo, but it was pretty bad. But in Hugo, the house split, and a good contractor came and you had to Humpty Dumpty and put the house back together
Right,
again. He put my house back together.
Is that right? And it's remained intact since then, since 54?
Such as it is.
That's fascinating. Do you get out into the water much?
Oh, yes, and I swim in the creek.
Do you
and
really?
Everybody just, they have horrible looks at you go in that creek. It's wonderful, that salt water.
Yeah.
And you can't drown at Merle's Inlet.
How often do you get out in there, Ann?
All right, last week I went twice. When I finish here today, see, you have to go by the tide.
It's 7 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, so you're going to be heading out there?
Yeah. I'm going.
Right?
Yeah, after I leave here, I'll have something, and then I'm going in the creek.
That's fascinating.
There's a favorite spot on Sunnyside in front of this house that we used to gather, and I'm the only one gathering there now. Most of them are gone, but anyway, the families that are still there do.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to swim in the creek. Swimming pools are fine, but there's nothing like the creek. Have you ever been in the creek?
I bet you have. Swam in there. No, I don't.
Salt water, you can't drown. It just bubbles, and it's just enough waves and a good breeze, and look up at the sky and the birds and that marsh.
That is fascinating.
Nothing like
I'm going to have to talk to my uncle who lives on the very southern end down on Oree Drive. I think I mentioned to you in a home that.
Well, now where do you live? I
live in Myrtle Beach, actually.
Oh,
but
you do?
I have a home there in Merle's Inlet, the exact opposite end of the inlet of your home, right before Business and Bypass merge back together. I love that area. But I am a new to the area, unlike your time there since '53. Do you have family here in the area, Ann?
No, not really.
Oh, no.
My brother died in March, and so I'm the last one. I was the youngest, and I knew that would probably happen, but it's a strange feeling to be the last surviving.
That is fascinating. Wow. Well, I think I saw you had some time there at the University of Georgia. Did you get your master's in library science?
Library education, they called it, because I work with school libraries.
Right.
And it's a little different than public libraries.
Okay, sure.
But it was a grand experience. It really was.
Yeah.
So I'm a bulldog until they play Clemson.
And then you're
and then I have to be a tiger.
Yes,
I have to be a tiger. And I married a Carolina man. And my aunt said, they used to have the big game on Big Thursday at the State Fair.
Yeah.
And she said, if you ever get a divorce, it'll be on Big Thursday when they're playing the game. But we didn't. When Carolina won, I would be quiet and he would let me. And then when Clemson won, I'd hold it over him.
He'd be quiet.
Yeah, I'd cry.
Of course, we had a chance to meet due to a long time, a gentleman who's worked with my family for almost 20 years, Pete Sealer, who I think attends a church that I understand was founded in your home.
Yes, we started in 1977. I just became so unhappy with what was happening in the Episcopal Church. And I made a trip to Charleston, and there was a group there that had, and we don't say we left the Episcopal Church, we say they left us because of the policies they're following now and the doctrine they've abandoned. And so the people from Charleston came up and met with us. And we don't have a building, and we have a minister, but anyway, it started.
We met the pastor,
it started in our living room, and then we rented Salvation Army, Presbyterian churches, and all sorts of things to keep going. And we've been going. We haven't been growing a lot. We've lost a lot since 1977.
Is that right? 30 years this year. That's tremendous.
Well, I hadn't thought about it.
Yeah, big 3
we ought to have
a little celebration. Like the 30 years.
I'll remind the bishop when he's coming in September.
Yes, absolutely. How exciting.
But that's a group, the Anglican Catholic Church that came from St. Louis in 1977. They had a meeting, and 4 bishops separated and started ordaining the
That's fascinating. Well, I'm sure glad. I appreciate the opportunity to get Jamie Danforth with us from the Air Force, who also serves the role with your church there that had been started out of your home. When we think about what it means to belong, I think you shared a minute ago those five objectives of being active in the United Daughters of the Confederacy. But when we think about heritage, obviously the Daughters of the Confederacy speak a lot about heritage. What does that mean exactly?
It does. What it means to be in the Daughters is that you're in a group that have the same feeling about the South and the cause and what we're still trying to do. And you always feel safe in a group that feels the same way that you do. And so that's what it means. And heritage is important. I mean, if we forget the past, we might be doomed, the saying, to repeat it. So it's just it just tells you where you came from, what it meant, to be. And I don't know that any Southerner can really explain why it's so great to be a Southerner, but that saying, you're American by birth, but you're Southern by the grace of God. And I really feel that.
Is this something you've been able to pass down to your family?
Yes, I have. We have fought, my sons have, they're not members of the Sons right now, but they have written letters, and they've written articles, and they have stood up.
That's fine.
I'm sorry. Did that do something?
Oh, that's fine. Absolutely. That's the great thing about TV on a Tuesday morning. That's right. And these folks from Ace Hardware were so kind to let us in early on. They open up actually at 8 o'clock, so they were kind to let us in a little early.
I love the atmosphere.
Isn't it great?
Yes, it is.
Right behind us, all these painters' tools and everything else. It's fantastic.
I see so many things. I'd much rather buy something from the hardware than a new dress or something.
Than a new dress or shoes or anything else. I love that.
I would like to say that all these years we have been working, and in World War I mean, you hardly hear about World War I anymore.
Oh, yeah.
But we, I don't know, we contributed so much money for French and Belgian orphans, and we supported hospital beds in France.
Yes.
And we just raised $841,000 to a Red Cross and war relief.
Is that right?
And it's interesting that a memorial to the Confederate, the women of the North and the South, is a permanent headquarters of the Red Cross in Washington.
Is that right? I don't think I knew that. So there's an overlapping relationship with the women of the North as well.
Yes. And in World War II, we even supported student nurses. And we donated ambulance for European battle sites. And we donated blood plasma through the Red Cross.
Yes.
And
we tremendous.
We continued helping during the Korean, the Vietnam, and Desert Storm.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And
so he's continued to make a difference to many others other than just down the bloodline.
That's what I try to embrace.
Are you active in any other nonprofit groups, Ann?
I'm really not.
Your church.
The church is taken. I'm active. Well, they might not agree, but I'm active in a garden club because I love to.
Good. Which one? One in Florence or one down here?
No, the Camellia in Florence.
That's great.
And I stay in it because I've learned so much.
Yes.
And put a lot into practice. And tulips, one of my favorite flowers. I went to Holland.
Well, we've got a garden of the week every week now in the Myrtle Beach Herald. We're going to have to, right there on the back of Section B there, which is very handsome. A young woman from Conway actually takes the photos for us. This one is from Surfside Beach this week, so you're going to have to check it out and check out our garden of the week. We want to get hooked up with some local garden clubs. We think about, we've only got about 5 minutes, and we hear the phrase true Southerners. What does that mean to you about being a true Southerner?
Well, it's a way of life. I mean, we're all Americans, I know now. But the people up north were just brought up differently, and we were. I think since the heat wave has been, I heard one northerner say they understood why we were a little slower. I enjoyed that. But it's just a graciousness. It's just a chivalry is not all dead maybe sometimes. When the gentleman opens the door for you, and you're so thankful and so, it's just hard to explain. But it is a way of life, and no matter all the changes, you're a true Southerner. And see, that's why I want to get into the conflicts and what is it that what
are some of the misconceptions about Southerners that viewers may have? One
of the main misconceptions is the name of the war. It was not a civil war. And let me read you this. On March the 2nd, 1928, the Senate Resolution number 41, Congress recognized the war between the states as the proper name. The war was between two organized governments, not two parties in the same government. The Confederacy set up a government. They had a president, a vice president. They had banking. You see, a civil war is a group within the government that wants to take over. We didn't want to take over the government. We had been treated as a foreign land with all our high tariffs and all our misrepresentation, and so we wanted to be a country. And so it was a war between them. But you know who wins the war gets to write the history. And it's much easier to say civil war than the war between the states. So many times we've thought, because it's short, civil war, they say that. But it actually was not. And then another, there may not be today a Memorial Day if it hadn't been for Southern women. After the war, they started decorating the graves of the Confederate veterans, and they called it Decoration Day. Well, the Northerners caught on and said we should do the same thing. So they started, and it developed to May the 3rd to Memorial Day.
Is that right?
But we still have Confederate Memorial Day. And it's in South Carolina, it is May the 10th. And we have, Columbia has a big Memorial Day on the first Saturday in May. And we have it as close to May the 10th, and so second Saturday, as we can in Florence.
Do some of the stories that were shared with you at an early age, Ann, stick out in your mind to keep you real active stories from your grandmother or grandfather, or even the stories from your mother?
Well, I didn't know. My mother. I didn't know them.
Shared with you stories anecdotally from
They died before I was born, but mother kept it alive.
Any of those that really stick out in your mind that have maintained you, that have helped keep you so focused on supporting the UDC?
Actually, it is, and really sometimes more of the Reconstruction. Mother told about how grandmother being in Columbia and the burning and the pillaging and how the soldiers went in across the street and went into this woman's bedroom, and she was having a baby, and he saw the ring on her finger and tried to take it, and she took it off and said, "I'll swallow it before I give it to you." And he said, "Well, you're a perky lady, you keep your ring." And about husbands disappearing and never never coming back. About how young grandfather was, he helped build the gunboat, the PD. You see, they built a gunboat to protect a northern ship would come in Winyah Bay and could come up the rivers. And so they built the PD gunboat to protect that. As it ended, they had to destroy, blow up the PD gunboat because they knew the Northerners were advancing and would take it, and so they blew it up.
So clearly the stories of your mother have helped keep the passion in your belly.
It has. She was a Gregg, and we think Gregg came from McGregor.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about your birthday.
My Gregg comes from McGregor, yes.
And you know the McGregors.
Yes, that I do, absolutely.
Well, I won't say fighting people, but...
feisty, how about
feisty,
that?
Feisty.
And I'm sorry, we've run out of time. We're going to have to get you back another day. And, of course, if Ace Hardware opens up their doors early on, we can come back here to celebrate the heritage of your cousin or brother-in-law's hardware store. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having us, Greg.
Absolutely.
I certainly enjoyed it.
Very definitely.
Thank you.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Ann Powell, the United Daughters of the Confederacy, coming up next. The oldest patriotic lineage society in the United States. There's a real active group there every day making a difference, and they're recruiting new members all the time. You can make a difference. Take a look at this great cotton ball emblem there right on the cover. Love, live, think, dare, and pray. And praying was an active component of this back in the 1800s. It's an active component now in the 21st century. You can be involved in the UDC. Take the time to learn more about the organization. You can go online to www.hqudc.org. You can give them a call at 804-355-1636. Or you heard Ann say it, you can send them a letter at the Memorial Division there, 328 North Boulevard in Richmond, Virginia, 23220. Take the time, learn more about this amazing organization and amazing volunteers just like Ann Powell.